Good morning, my dear students. Today we are discussing the last insect vector, that is Xenopsilla cuypus. So this Xenopsilla is found worldwide in association with its primary host, that is Rattus species. Xenopsilla usually inhabits tropical, subtropical, and also it can be seen in temperate zone as well. So these fleas, which are commonly called fleas, and they are prevalent in major cities. Species of Rattus typically found in city sewer system and other human related habitats, which are the excellent host of these fleas. So these fleas are nidicolous parasite, that means they stays at its birthplace for a long time and they live in the host's nest. Clothing, beds and couches are perfect homes for many of these fleas. Fleas only attach to the host while they are sucking blood. At other times they are free living in the host's nest. So coming to the morphology, these Xenopsilla, they are about 1.5 to 4 mm in length and they have laterally compressed body. Like all other fleas, these adults are wingless and the adults vary from light brown to dark brown in coloration. That means they have camouflaged themselves in the host's fur. Males and female are sexually dimorphic. Females have a dark colored spermatheca that resembles a small sacs, a distinguishing character of this species. Males have complex genitalia that are easily distinguished from the females. Larvae are about 4.5 mm long and resemble that like a worm. They are slender, white, eyeless and legless. Each has 14 bristle segments. During the last larval instar, they moult and they form cocoons which are silky and covered in derbys from surroundings. Coming to their role in disease transmission, an adult flea can survive up to 100 days in temperature of 45 to 50 degree Fahrenheit. Maximum lifespan of fleas, it is about 376 days. So a lifespan increases the survival rate of fleas, thus resulting in greater a chance of transmitting the pathogen. So this is a mammalian, that means a parasite of mammalian species including Rattus and also humans. Because of its parasitic nature, Xenopsilla cuypus is a vector for pathogens such as plague, bacilli, which is a rod-shaped bacteria which referred to as Yersinia pestis, and flea-borne murine typhus, which is a disease caused by the bacteria Rickettsia typhi. So the transmission of pathogen occurs as bacteria which enter into the flea gut and automatically they start multiplying. Coming to the first disease, that is the bacteria that causes the plague, that is the Yersinia pestis, maintain their existence in a cycle involving rodents and other fleas. Many types of animals such as squirrel, rats, squirrel, and the dogs, chipmunks, mice, mole, and the rabbits can also be affected by this plague. Wild carnivores can become infected by eating other infected animals. Plague bacteria circulate at low rates within population of certain rodents without causing excessive rodent die-off. These infected animals and their fleas serve as long-term reservoirs for the bacteria. This is called as enzootic cycle. The other species become infected, causing an outbreak among animals called an epizootic cycle. So humans are usually more at risk during or short after the plague epizootic, which is an infective cycle. Epizootics are most likely in areas with multiple type of rodents living in high density and in high diverse habitats. Transmission, it can be occurred or it can be transmitted to humans in following ways: by flea bites. It is the most common type, where exactly the infected flea bite the humans. During plague epizootics, many rodents die, causing hungry flea to seek other sources of blood. People and animals that visit places where rodents have recently died from plague are at risk of being infected from flea bites. Dogs and cats may also bring plague infected flea into the home. Flea bite exposure may result in primary bubonic plague or septicemic plague. And second mode of transmission, it is from the contaminated fluid or tissue. So it is affected or infected when handling tissue or body fluid of plague infected animal. For example, when a hunter skinning a rabbit or other infected animal without using proper precaution could become infected with plague bacteria. This form of exposure most commonly results in bubonic plague or septicemic plague. And also it can be happened with the third wave, that is infectious droplets. When a person has plague pneumonia, they may cough droplets containing the plague bacteria into air. If this bacteria containing droplets are breathed in by another person, they can get, that is pneumonic plague. Typically, this requires direct and close contact with a person with pneumonic plague. Transmission of these droplets is the only way that plague can be spread between people. Cats are particularly susceptible to plague and can be infected by eating infected rodents. Sick cats pose a risk of transmitting infectious plague droplets to their owners or to the veterinarians. Several cases of human plague have occurred in the United States in recent decades as a result of contact with infected cats. Coming to the symptoms, so plague symptoms depends on how patient has been exposed to plague bacteria. Plague can take different clinical forms. First one, bubonic, pneumonic and septicemic. First one, bubonic plague. Here is the picture which shows the symptoms of the bubonic plague. Here the patient developed onset with the fever, headache, chill, weakness and one more, that is swollen, tender and painful lymph nodes, and that what we call it as buboes. This form usually results from the bite of an infected flea, and the bacteria multiply in the lymph node and where exactly the bacteria enter the human body. If the patient is not treated with appropriate antibiotics, the bacteria can spread to other parts of the body. So next one, that is septicemic plague, which is commonly called as Black Death. Here is some of the pictures which will clearly shows exactly what is septicemic plague. So all the different forms starts with the fever, chill, extreme weakness, abdominal pain, and later on it will leads into a bleeding of the skin and other organs. Skin and other tissues may turn black and die, especially on fingers, toes and also in the nose. Septicemic plague can occur as a first symptom of a plague or may develop from untreated bubonic plague. This form results from the bites of infected flea or from handling an infected animal. Next one, that is a pneumonic plague. When here also the initial symptom, they are with the fever, headache and the weakness, and here a rapidly developing pneumonia with the shortness of breath, chest pain, cough and sometimes bloody or watery mucosa. Pneumonic plague may develop from inhaling infectious droplets or may develop from the untreated, that is bubonic or septicemic plague after the bacteria which enters the lungs. Thereafter, it may cause respiratory failure or the shock, which is this pneumonic plague is a more serious form of disease and only form of plague that can be spread from one person to another by the infectious, that is the droplets. So here is the common symptoms of plague: bubonic, pneumonic and septicemic. Bubonic plague, that is a sudden high fever, headache, chill, body ache, swollen painful nodes at the armpits, etc., which we call it as the buboes. And second one, pneumonic plague, sudden pneumonia, bloody watery mucus, respiratory failure. And third one, that is septicemic plague with the fever, chill, body ache, severe abdominal pain, shock, blackened skin at the extremities. So the most common sign of bubonic plague is the rapid development of swollen and painful gland called the bubo. A known flea bite or a presence of bubo may help a doctor to consider plague as a cause of illness. In many cases, particularly in the septicemic and the pneumonic plague, there is no obvious sign and indicate the plague. Diagnosis is made by taking sample from the patient, especially blood or a part of swollen lymph gland, and submitting them for laboratory testing. Once plague has been identified as a possible cause of illness, appropriate treatment should begin immediately. Next, coming to the treatment, plague is very serious illness but is treatable with the common available antibiotics. The earlier a patient seeks medical care and receives treatment that is appropriate for plague, the better their chances of full recovery. People in close contact with very sick pneumonic plague patients may be evaluated and possibly placed under observation. Preventive antibiotic therapy may also be given depending on the type and the timing of the person. Next, that is the prevention. Reduce the rodent habitat around your home, workplace and the recreational areas. Remove brush, rock pile, junk, cluttering firewood and the possible rodent food supply such as pet and wild animal food. Make your home and outbuildings rodent proof. Wear gloves if you are handling or skinning potentially infected animals to prevent contact between your skin and the plague bacteria. Contact the local health department if any question about the disposal of dead animals. Use repellent to rodent fleas, that is during activities such as camping, hiking or working outdoors. Products containing DEET can be applied to the skin as well as the clothing, and products containing permethrin can be applied to clothing. Keep fleas of your pets by applying flea control products. Animals that roam freely are likely to come in contact with the plague infected areas. Plague infected animals or fleas could bring them into home. If the pet becomes sick, seek care from the veterinarian as soon as possible. Do not allow dogs or cats that roam free in endemic areas to sleep on the bed. These are some of the preventive measures of plague. Next, it is the typhus. It is a disease caused by infection with one or more rickettsial bacteria. Fleas, mites, lice or ticks are the types of invertebrate animals known as arthropods transmit it when they bite. When arthropods carrying around rickettsial bacteria bite someone, they transmit the bacteria that causes the typhus. Scratching the bite further opens the skin and allows the bacteria greater access to the bloodstream. Once in the bloodstream, the bacteria continue to reproduce and grow. There are 3 different types of typhus. First one, epidemic typhus or louse-borne. Here is the picture. Endemic murine typhus, or you can call it as murine typhus. And third one, that is the scrub typhus. So endemic murine typhus, it is also known as murine typhus, and it is caused by Rickettsia typhi, and it is carried by the rat flea, or also it can be carried by the cat flea. Endemic typhus can be found worldwide. It may be found among people in close contact with rats. Fleas become infected when they bite infected animals such as cats, rats or opossum. Here is the life cycle you can see. Coming to the symptoms of murine typhus, starting with the headache, fever, muscle pain, joint pain, nausea and vomiting. 40 to 50% of patients will develop a discrete rash, that is after 6 days onset of the signs. Here is the picture which shows the rashes on the body. Up to 45% will develop neurological signs such as confusion, stupor, seizures or imbalance. So coming to the treatment, that is a flea-borne typhus is treated with the antibiotic, that is doxycycline. Can be used, this antibiotic can be used with any of a person of any age. Antibiotics are most effective when given soon after the symptoms begin. People treated early with doxycycline usually recover quickly. There is no evidence that persist or chronic infection occur because of typhus. Coming to the prevention measures, there is no vaccine to prevent flea-borne typhus. Reduce your risk of getting flea-borne typhus by avoiding contact with the fleas. Keep fleas off from the pest. Keep rodents and animals away from your home, workplace and recreational areas. Protect yourself from flea bites. Thank you.